Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We are discussing still Major Hurricane Beryl, which is still a Category 5 hurricane, but it has started to show signs of its now slow but eventual weakening trend. As of the 11 a.m. advisory this morning, it has been reduced to a 160 mile per hour Category 5 with pressure upped a little bit to 938 millibars. It is continuing to move west-northwest at a very fast pace at 22 miles per hour. It peaked earlier this morning at 165 miles per hour and 934 millibars. Just a true monster of a storm, and it still is one, but in a way, fortunately for Jamaica, it will be a weaker storm as it approaches and impacts them. However, what is not good for Jamaica is that now the National Hurricane Center, let's go to the latest cone forecast from them from the 11 a.m. most recent advisory. They are expecting the storm to make a landfall along the southern coast of Jamaica at major hurricane intensity, around a strong Category 3 to weak Category 4 strength, around 120 to 130 miles per hour. I can show you this within the discussion here. You can see within the next 24 to 36 hours, the National Hurricane Center has it weakening to a 140 and then 120 mile per hour storm. 140 mile per hour storm is a Category 4, 120 is a strong Cat 3. So likely within this time frame is when it will be making its closest and at this point seems likely landfall on Jamaica as either a weak Category 3 or weak Category 4 or strong Category 3 hurricane, bringing with it absolutely devastating impacts to the island with strong winds, heavy rainfall, likely a lot of power outages. Everyone who lives in Jamaica really needs to make sure that they are fully prepared basically by this point, if not by tomorrow morning at the latest, because it will be likely striking as we get towards and making landfall as we get towards midday to early to mid-afternoon tomorrow. So really make sure you have all your preparations in place. You are ready for this storm because it will be impacting and especially making landfall looks like very likely tomorrow towards the middle of the day to early afternoon. Now, let's take a look at the rainfall forecast as it gets towards Jamaica. And you can see Jamaica is going to be getting a lot of rainfall. It looks like it will be along the southern coast. It looks like it'll be getting up to 4 to 6 inches on the very eastern part of the country. There, it will be expecting up to possibly a foot of rainfall or more locally. So a lot of rainfall, which means a lot of potential for flooding. Flash flooding is a concern there because of that, along with very, very damaging strong hurricane force winds and to major hurricane force winds that will likely cause a lot of power outages and a lot of damage to homes and businesses all throughout the island. So really make sure you are prepared in Jamaica. And, of course, the southern coast of Hispaniola is also going to see impacts from the storm. They are under tropical storm warning and hurricane watch as well the hurricane watch is for the southern Haiti coast, and while the tropical storm warning is for both the Haiti coast and the southern Dominican Republic coast. So they will be seeing some tropical storm force winds and some heavy rainfall from the outer bandings of the hurricane as it makes its closest approach through the rest of today and through tonight into tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at what the storm currently looks like. As I mentioned in the beginning, it is on a weakening trend now, as you can see through this current satellite IR loop, that the eye is really starting to degrade a bit. And now with the convection blowing up all around it is still around the negative 70 to negative 80 degrees Celsius. However, you can see, especially on the western side, it is starting to feel effects of the beginning of more dry air and that more stronger and moderate wind shear that it's approaching as it continues to the west and northwest, as it continues to the south of Hispaniola and towards Jamaica. So starting to look a bit more degraded, but still a very powerful, strong major hurricane. Still a Category 5 intensity, but likely as we get through the rest of today into tonight, we'll see it get downgraded back to a Category 4, and as it approaches Jamaica and makes landfall, it will likely be around a strong Category 3 to a weak Category 4 as of right now, it looks like, according to the National Hurricane Center. Let's take a look at the visible high-res loop of the storm, and you can see as well clearly that the eye is also starting to get filled in with clouds, so not nearly as perfect of an eye as it had earlier today and yesterday especially. So definitely looking like it is starting its eventual weakening trend over the next few days. But still, especially for Jamaica, they should be expecting a major hurricane landfall and regardless of major hurricane impact tomorrow. So really make sure there that you are prepared. Now let's take a look at what Recon has found today. And Recon had throughout the morning up through around near the 11 a.m. advisory has found generally that pressure-wise within the center of the storm, within the eye, pressure has been found to be in the mid to now upper 930s. That is why now at the 11 a.m. advisory, they brought the winds down a little bit to 160 and raised the pressure up to 938 millibars. Now, and this is as well a second mission that was in there that found it to be at peak intensity, was there when it was really found to have its peak intensity early this morning at 165 and 934 millibars. You can see marked by around that 935 millibar mark, and it did find winds that supported 165 miles per hour for its peak sustained winds, which, by the way, 165 miles per hour, 934 millibars, at least 165 miles per hour makes Hurricane Beryl officially the strongest hurricane ever recorded this early in the season, beating out Emily, which peaked at 160 miles per hour, and the third most intense Atlantic hurricane this early. The other two being Hurricane Emily and Hurricane Dennis of 2005. Otherwise, I mean, regardless, it is a truly record-breaking storm in every other aspect. It is just one of the strongest hurricanes as well the strongest hurricane to be just a thing this early in the season. Just an incredible feat. So that is what Recon is showing. Now let's take a look at the hurricane models, show you what they are forecasting for Beryl as it continues through the Caribbean towards the Western Caribbean, the Yucatan, and what it may do once it crosses the Yucatan in the Gulf of Mexico. So, starting off with the HWRF hurricane model, it is showing that the storm will be continuing to weaken, and as it approaches and possibly makes landfall on the southern coast of Jamaica, it will have a pressure likely as it approaches initially in the 950s to around 960, and as it starts to move away, pressure will rise into the 970s and 980s, start to become a lot more weaker of a system, especially as it eventually passes Jamaica. But then as we get towards the coast of the HWRF shows it hitting the more northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula, as with a pressure around 980 millibars, it crosses the Yucatan, heads into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico and western Gulf of Mexico in the 990s, and a much weaker storm, likely around a tropical storm status as it enters the Gulf of Mexico. But then you can see it towards the end of the run, as we get towards the end of this upcoming weekend on July 7th, it shows that the storm starts to re-intensify a bit as it gets towards the very western parts of the Gulf of Mexico, towards the northern Mexican coast and possibly border of southern Texas. So that is what the HWRF model is currently showing for Beryl. And now let's take a look at the HMON model and what it is showing for Beryl. Oh, the 12Z run is just coming in for the HMON model for this storm. So let's take a look at the 6Z run. That is just a little bit older of a run. But we move this forward in time into Wednesday and towards Jamaica. It shows it moving just a little further south than what the HWRF model was showing, but still bringing extreme impacts to Jamaica with the heaviest rain, strongest of winds on that northern side. Pressure-wise, it shows it being in the 960s and 970s as it passes by Jamaica. Gets past Jamaica, and it becomes a much weaker system into the 980s. Crosses in a similar area of the northern Yucatan Peninsula the HWRF model was showing. Crossing the Yucatan Peninsula, gets into the Gulf of Mexico as a strong tropical storm, most likely at this point. And then as it gets further into the western Gulf of Mexico towards the northern Mexican Gulf Coast and southern Texas, it shows it re-intensifying a good bit back into a hurricane, possibly a major hurricane, as it makes landfall there. And this is, this is far out, but this is by the time we get towards the end of this upcoming weekend. So several days. We likely really won't know until we get towards Thursday, Friday, with where it really will track once it goes past the Yucatan into the Gulf of Mexico. So that's what the H-bomb model is more or less currently showing. Let's take a look at the HAFS A model, and this is not what I wanted. I want this model. Here we go. Let's do this. Here we go. The current 12Z run of the HAFS A model is also currently coming in now. So let's see. At this point, it shows it going well, or it actually doesn't even show it going impacting Jamaica just yet with this run. So let's change it to the 6Z run. So the HAFS A model, according to the 6Z run, has it going to the south of the Hispaniola, bringing with it tropical storm and maybe hurricane force conditions, especially for the Haiti coast, with regardless bringing heavy rain and squalls with the outer bands of the storm. It gets towards Jamaica, has it making landfall on the southern coast of Jamaica, bringing extremely heavy rain, strong hurricane force and possibly major hurricane force winds. And flood, of course, major flooding to flash flooding conditions to the island, and brings it with around 970s to 980 millibar hurricane. So likely a Category 3 hurricane or Category 2 to 3 hurricane as it passes through Jamaica. Gets into the more western Caribbean towards the Yucatan, has it weakening a bunch more, and crosses as well the more northern part of the Yucatan Peninsula, closer to Cozumel, and crosses it over into the Gulf of Mexico, enters the Gulf of Mexico as a strong tropical storm, and then as it continues through the western Gulf of Mexico, it has it re-strengthening back into a hurricane and possibly major hurricane, as it also shows it approaching the Texas and northern Mexican Gulf Coast, southern Texas and northern Mexican Gulf Coast, possibly by the time we get towards the end of this weekend. So lots to keep an eye on, but it seems more and more likely that possibly at the very least, the very southern Texas Gulf Coast and northern Mexican coast in that area is looking more and more, has a more and more possibility of getting impacted by Beryl once it reaches the Gulf of Mexico and gets past the Yucatan Peninsula. So that's what the HAFS A model currently shows. HAFS B model, let's show you that, and as well the 12Z run for the HAFS B model is currently coming in as well. So let's change it to the 6Z run. The HAFS B model shows it also getting very close to, if not making landfall on the southern coast of Jamaica, around a much stronger type of major hurricane, likely more of a Category 3 to possibly weak Category 4 major hurricane as it passes and impacts Jamaica. Now it gets into the western Gulf of Mexico. The shear impacts it a lot more in that time frame as we get towards, this is around Thursday and Friday. It gets towards as well the northern Yucatan Peninsula coastline around Cozumel or just to the south of Cozumel, and makes landfall in the 970s, the HAFS B says. Gets into regardless, as it crosses the Yucatan, gets into the Gulf of Mexico, weakens a good bit more to get into the Gulf of Mexico as a strong tropical storm. And then the HAFS B model has it re-intensifying in the western Gulf of Mexico, especially because of the just as well record warm sea surface temperatures the Gulf of Mexico also has. And then has it impacting more of the northern coast of Mexico more than the more impacting the southern Texas coast around a stronger hurricane and possibly major hurricane around 970 millibars towards the end of this weekend on Sunday, July 7th. But again, there's still a lot of time for that to change. We'll see, especially as we get towards Thursday, Friday, we'll have starting to really have our first best idea of really where in the Gulf of Mexico it will track, whether it will track more to the west and just impact the Mexican Gulf Coast, or if it will make more of that north and northwestern turn to impact more of the Texas Gulf Coast as well as the further northern Mexican coastline. So we will have to see on that. Now, that is what all of the hurricane models is showing for the forecasted future track of Beryl as it continues through the Caribbean and towards the Yucatan and Gulf of Mexico. So Beryl, once again, is a truly record-breaking major hurricane that is still a Category 5 hurricane as of the latest advisory at 11 at 160 miles per hour, 938 millibars. It peaked at 165 miles per hour and a 934 millibar pressure. This is actually, with it having its lowest pressure, 934 millibars, it is one of the weakest Category 5 hurricanes pressure-wise ever be recorded, with only Ian and the 1938 New England hurricane being two out of maybe another three others that had a even weaker. Oh, and there was another one, I think it was Janet maybe, that had a weaker, it might have been a different one, but it, definitely Ian and the 1938 New England hurricane had a weaker lowest pressure at Category 5 intensity. So that regardless, Beryl is still a very historic major hurricane, Category 5 major hurricane. Because of it, the ACE index already is up to 17.1 units now. So, I mean, we are in really record territory, especially ACE-wise, in one of the highest ACE indexes this early in the season because of just this one storm, Beryl. So, truly a historic storm Beryl has become, and is going to be impacting Jamaica as we get into tomorrow as likely a Category 3 to maybe weak Category 4 hurricane, bringing with it very strong major hurricane force winds, heavy rainfall, a major flood threat. Hopefully everyone in Jamaica is taking this seriously. I really hope you guys are, and preparing accordingly so, because this storm is going to pack a major punch. So really hope you guys are prepared for it. Beryl has already caused, after it has gone through the Windward Islands and the southern Lesser Antilles, already caused at least $1 billion worth of damage there, and has also caused already 4 fatalities in that area. So truly unfortunate that we've already had fatalities, especially from Beryl at this point. And unfortunately, it looks like there is a shot of possibly, especially much more damage from Beryl to come in Jamaica, and maybe even the southern parts of the Hispaniola, and eventually the Yucatan, Mexico, maybe even parts of the Gulf Coast of the U.S. as we get towards this weekend. So really hope everyone is keeping an eye on Beryl, making sure you guys are getting just the most up-to-date information on Beryl as we continue throughout the rest of this week. I will make sure to keep you guys up to date on what Beryl strength currently is and what it's looking like as it continues towards the Western Caribbean and Yucatan. That is especially once it gets towards the Yucatan Peninsula, that is when we really are going to have to keep a close eye on it to see whether or not it really is going to impact at least the very western parts of the Gulf Coast of the U.S., especially Texas, and if not at least the Mexican Gulf Coast. So hopefully you guys found this video very informative, very helpful. Again, Hurricane Beryl, a truly historic Category 5 early season major hurricane, just a monster of a storm that is going to bring more devastating impacts to Jamaica and eventually the Yucatan and possibly the Texas Gulf Coast and the Mexican Gulf Coast as we get towards this weekend. So again, hopefully you guys found this video informative, helpful. Like the video down below, comment down below. What do you guys think about this storm? How would you guys describe it? It is like, I feel like historic isn't even a good enough word to describe just truly how unprecedented this storm has been. But again, hopefully you guys found this video informative and helpful. So comment down below what you guys have thought about Beryl up to this point. What do you guys think Beryl will do moving forward? How impactful do you think it will be towards Jamaica and future land masses after that? And subscribe to the channel for future updates on Beryl in the coming days, in the coming week, and more content throughout the rest of the hurricane season on every other tropical cyclone that we will see. And this is a very bad sign for the potential of what the actual peak of the season is going to be like, especially if this early season is starting to really show us more peak of the season type of activity. So I will see you guys in the next video, and like the video, subscribe for future content on Beryl and the rest of the hurricane season, and comment down below what you guys think Beryl will do the rest of its lifetime, especially for the impacts it will bring. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.